adrenochrome.
Well, hello there, and welcome to FrankieSense More. My guest today, Debbie A. Anderson. For over 35 years, she has been providing intuitive spiritual readings around the world. From a young age, Debbie has communicated with spirit and spirits, those who have passed over, and while that may have at one time landed her in an asylum, today she is recognized as an internationally known clairvoyant and medium. She was born in England. She attended the infamous Arthur Findlay College in Essex, the original Hogwarts, and she later emigrated to Canada. She has created several oracle decks, all beautiful, all enveloped in positive energy, including one for children, that allows self-readers the ability to clear and enhance their personal energy. Today, Debbie is lecturing, reading, and teaching folks like us how to enhance our intuition and successfully read the oracle cards. And today, she has promised that we will get the 3 steps to the maximum success, from the oracle cards. And just to show you how this is the front deck of the deck. Actually, it's part of the cover of the deck that she uses, and the cards are quite beautiful. And we both pulled a card before the show, and I pulled this card. It's called Dream Catchers, and Debbie, you got
New Beginnings.
New Beginnings.
We're having this conversation, and it's like a new beginning.
It is like a new beginning. I do have to apologize. We did try to get onto Facebook today several times. Our energy is just like, woo, just played havoc, I guess, with technology, and we were unable to be live for you. But we're live. We're seeing each other.
Yes, absolutely. In the flesh, so to speak.
In the flesh, so to speak, exactly. So, Debbie, it's all, Bongo wants to join the conversation. Must be a delivery person, of course.
Okay.
I think everything is working against us today. I don't know what's going on, man.
No, it's just the divine intervention sometimes that comes in there, steps in, but all is good.
So you've been, I don't know if you knew that you were a medium when you were a young child, but you've been seeing, and being very intuitive for a very long time.
Yes.
And I think a lot of children are intuitive and do see spirit, and then they forget about it.
Yeah.
Why do you think you hung on to it, let's say?
I don't know if it's stubbornness or tenacity. Or just whether spirit were like, you've got to do this. We always say there's a greater plan that we don't understand sometimes in our life, and then later on as things unfold and come into play, they go, oh yeah, now I can understand why I had to do this, or this had to happen, and all of those kind of things that at the time you go, it doesn't make sense, why did I go here, or why did this happen, or all of those kind of things. So I assume at that time when I was opening up myself as a child, that it was more of a case of there was not the wave that we've had in the last, I would say, 15 years on our planet, in our universe, where more and more children, more and more adults are becoming aware, awakening, opening up, connecting, whatever you like to call it. And so I suppose in those days, maybe they had to find foot soldiers or just go in and go, hey, this kid is getting into mischief, or this kid is, opening up to us. So let's just see who we can tap into. I did find out many, many years after my grandmother had passed into spirit that she actually used to do tea leaf readings. And of course, in those days, it wouldn't be a case that she would say, I'm doing a tea leaf reading. She would have somebody come over, they would sit around. They had one of those, in my grandparents' house, they had one of those, I suppose, coal stoves that were in the kitchen that heated the house up, etc. And so that would be the sort of meeting place, and people would come over, have a cup of tea. And in those days, yes, it was tea leaves, and not the kind of tea leaves we get in those little baggies now.
Right. Yeah.
It was real big chunky bits of leaf, and in those days you didn't always strain your tea, you just had it in there and then use your teeth to strain them at the end, and I don't know how it came about, whether she just would pick up the teacup and be looking at it and then sort of start talking just to the other person, and that was what I defined as being tea leaf reading. So yeah, she would pass on these messages, but she would never say it was from spirit. She would usually, from what I heard, just start off with a conversation of, so what's going on? Like women would sit and chat and have a cup of tea and, you know.
So kind of counsel, but not.
Absolutely, without realizing in our day now, it's a case of, yes, you would go and see somebody, whether it's a therapist or counselor or a medium psychic or whatever, and get that direction. So the openness now, I think, for children especially, is so much more than it's ever been. And having parents that understand. Like my mom at that time, she was going through a divorce with my father. So there were too many other things to think about rather than the child waking up and screaming that there were things coming through the ceiling, coming down on the bed. You know, it was just, you're having a bad dream, go back to sleep. You know, you're having a nightmare. So
stop being such a pain in the butt.
Exactly, you know, and of course, we lived in that time with my grandparents, and it was a very much a household, especially as far as my grandfather was concerned, where children were seen and not heard. So any disruption to the regular pattern or any noise levels, it was, a little bit different than it is probably today when, you know, if there's families get together and they're staying in the same household, there seems to be a lot more openness. But I'm not saying with everybody, but I think we're a little bit more there than we were when I was growing up, which was, I'm 62 now, so that was quite a long time ago.
We're the same age.
Oh.
So you're, it's like, Debbie, do you really need all that attention?
Yeah, I know. Especially as I said, in my teenage years, that did almost happen. You know, my mum, because it started with me pronouncing in England, they don't have like the school buses in England. I was just traveling on a regular bus and I looked out of the window. I know I saw Jesus. And I jumped up and said to everybody, look, and of course, somebody on the bus must have told my mother, and that was the point where I was taken in to see a psychiatrist. And as I say, in those days that you were given this lovely white little coat and locked up into an asylum. Yeah. And I truly believe there are many thousands of people that, especially younger people that would be, having nightmares, that kind of thing, that were placed in asylums or mental homes in those days, that which shouldn't have been. There was they were seeing spirit, but it wasn't understandable. So thankfully, my team upstairs basically said, shut it down. And I had to sort of fess up and say, I made it all up. I just wanted attention.
Wow.
So again, it was a safe hold. And even to this day, my mother really refers to me as one of them. And I'm never quite sure what one of them is, but she never really understood it. My father was more open and understanding, and my mother would probably say, well, I do, but, I don't really understand it, kind of thing. So that's okay.
Have you always, like the cards, like for myself, like I've always been attracted to cards.
Yes.
I must have a gazillion decks.
Yeah.
And like they're always in my hand. I don't know. I've always loved cards.
Yes.
Always loved cards.
Well, I used to, back in the day, as it were, when I first started, I would use a tarot deck. And that was, for me, I just had the Rider-Waite. I still, to this day, there are some beautiful tarot decks and oracle decks and all of that. But to the day, my go-to deck for tarot is the Rider-Waite.
Yeah.
I just love the imagery on it. And it spoke to me at that time when I needed direction, when I could help other people with direction. And it was at that time when I was using the tarot cards, that I got the opportunity to go on a workshop or to learn how to read the tarot cards properly. And I thought, well, I'd like to do this because I'm going to get a certificate at the end of it, and at least I'll have knowledge on something. And what was happening through the classes each week, we would learn the different, for anybody that's watching, tarot is a lot more intense to learn than an oracle deck. An oracle deck is a great starting tool, and it's a great go-to tool where you don't have to go through all the layers, if you like. Whereas a tarot deck, you have to go through them. Anyway, the long and the short of it was I went on this course and realized that even after learning how to read the tarot, I was doing it in an intuitive way, which didn't set well with the instructor, who basically told me they didn't really understand. You were
doing it the right way.
Exactly. And of course, again, when you're young and you're vulnerable and there's not a lot of, this was before internet. So I couldn't double check this. I couldn't just hear all these other interpretations from other people.
Right.
I just had to trust in this expert that was telling me that I was doing it the wrong way. And so I suppose when I teach people to use the Oracle deck, my deck, other people's deck, is to do it intuitively, not to worry. You know, we had this conversation at the beginning. Don't worry about the book. The book's there as a blankie, as I call it, but just tap into your own intuition and play with the card. It's so easy, and it doesn't need to be, a feeling of trepidation. The whole idea of this is to have fun, to basically connect. You know, I would say it's as easy as 1, 2, 3, and it truly is. There isn't anything that has got to be complicated. The biggest thing I always say is intention. Mm-hmm. And I believe that is in every step of our world. When we're doing something, be there, be present, turn up and have your full attention. Don't be distracted with the phone pinging or, the kids in the background. Take time so you can sit there and do this.
Yeah.
And you don't have to spend hours and hours and hours. You know, I always say, like meditation, 5 minutes a day is good to start with. It's getting you there. It's connecting with it.
I think a lot of people, are concerned, because I hear it all the time, are concerned that they're not intuitive, that they don't have any intuition. And it's so sad to hear that, because it's, I've always lived my life through my intuition rather than through my head. But the cards, sometimes, you look at a card and you go, oh, that's a really beautiful picture. Mm-hmm. Here's the inspired juggler. It's lovely. And I love these colors. I love the feel, and they're beautiful. And it looks like a Buddha, and he's tossing some balls in the air. And, so you would look at this card and you go, well, what does that have to do with me?
Well, again, I suppose the big thing is, what is the question you're asking? Yeah. What is the direction you're wanting? What is the confirmation or assistance you're needing? So this is where we step into intention. I'm sitting here with my cards. I'm going to connect to a question. What do I need right now? What is it that I need direction on? What is it I need confirmation on? And usually that's when people do go to a reader, or they use their cards or whatever. It's like, oh, and I'm not talking about I need a decision on what color dress to put on today or something like that. But usually it'll come about with, maybe we're going for a job. Is this the right job for me? Is this the right guy for me? Should I move here? Whatever the question is, maybe it's case of, do I need to change things in my life? Is there another direction I need to be going into? There's all of those, and everybody has their own question. And I always say, right off the bat, sit with your card, hold your card, close your eyes, obviously in a safe environment, sit somewhere where you've not got, obviously not driving a vehicle, but just sit there for a moment or two and just close your eyes and take a nice breath in, like breathe in, breathe out. That's it. Just get into that concentration. I'm having this time. I'm spending this time for me to get some direction. Okay, just like we would do homework. We would have to sit there and learn our times table, or we'd need to learn a poem or something like that. If we're distracted all over the place, we are never going to learn it. So if we take a moment to actually do that, and then just take the cards, and this is too funny. I just took the cards, and a card popped out here, the fairy ring. So just shuffle the cards, just let them happen. Don't feel that you have to, what am I getting? So if a card jumps out like it did there, and I was actually asking the question, what do I need in my life right now?
I just got one jump out myself.
Freedom. I need a little bit more taking the time for me. And that's true, because at the moment things have been extremely busy for me, and that's okay too. So maybe I just need to create that balance for me.
I just got this one, flew out. Hopeless release.
Hopeless release. Let it go. Let
it go.
I love the movie Frozen.
Yeah.
Watching it with my grandkids. Let it go. Let it go. Let it go. And sometimes we just have to let go. Let God is a great one.
I find I always end up laughing after I pull a card, because it's like, oh my gosh, you're like so funny. Like, you guys are like so right on. But I always get like a chill when I find that they're present, and then I do my reading. Like I wait for that confirmation that they're there. And I don't know if everybody feels that, but I think if you sit long enough and present enough, you will find that you do get a confirmation.
Yeah, because when we've gone into that moment, okay, so you've gone into that moment, we've taken the breath, we've switched off all the sounds and everything going on around us, and we're just there. was shuffling the deck with the intention of, I need some advice, I need some direction, please can you help me? Whether it's in desperation or whether it's in divine, asking, whatever it is, and be there. Then connect the deck, shuffle the cards, and people say to me, but I'm not really good at shuffling. Okay, take a table, spread your cards out on the table, swoosh them around in what we would call in card games the wash.
Yeah.
And then let your hand just hover over it to just see.
I think you get red
card.
when spirit comes.
Absolutely.
You're getting red.
I get very hot. I get very, very hot when I'm working
all
with
around
spirit.
you. Yeah.
So just connect with that card, connect with the question, and let it go. And in answer to your people that have said, I'm not very psychic or intuitive or any of that, everyone has that time when we have that, I haven't heard from somebody in a while, and then all of a sudden we bump into them. That spirit sending you the message, that spirit connecting with that. And we just have to trust and believe in it. There isn't a way that I could say, here's the Connect with Spirit 101, and this is going to happen every time. Because a couple of weeks ago, I was on my way to do a workshop, and I got held in traffic, and I am allowed plenty of time, so it wasn't a big deal. But while I was sitting there, my eyes got drawn to a vehicle, and it reminded me of when I was in Australia, and a very good friend that I knew there or know there. And then to the side of me, there was this kangaroo on a truck. I live in Canada. So I'm going, okay, so these two messages have been sent to me for a reason. So I actually messaged my friend on Facebook and said, hey, I got this feeling. I wanted to connect with you. How's things going? And she said, I've just been come out of surgery. I've had this major thing that's going on, but I'm really great. Thanks for connecting. So that was just spirit going, hey, connect with this person.
Yeah.
So listen and connect with those signs, just as you are with the deck. If a card pops out like this one did for me and the one did for you, that's the card. Even, and I say even if it's not the one we want to see. Right. Because maybe it's taking us in another direction. I always say to people that when things don't come out the way we planned them, the way we think we should have them, then we have to trust in the process from spirit that maybe we didn't want to have that job. Maybe we shouldn't have bought that house. So therefore they're trying to take us away from that so that we don't get caught up into it. Sorry, we were saying this conversation earlier on about the earbuds keep popping out. And maybe I should super glue them in or something. But when we get pulled away and it doesn't work out, then don't get all anxious about it. And I'll give you an example. Many, many years ago when I was working in corporate world, I had gone from this job. I was down to myself and one other person. I thought I'd nailed it. I was absolutely ecstatic. So, and of course, in those days, you got the Dear John or Joan letter that said, sorry, you didn't get it. And I just went into, why? As we do. That's the humanness of us.
Self-esteem then, goes down the toilet.
Absolutely. It's like, what did I do wrong? We go through all those self-flagellation, as I call it, things that we do. Nobody loves me. Why would you do that? This was the best thing. So anyway, fast forward some years later, and I had a neighbor move in, a new person move in next door to me, and she heard I did readings, and she said, I really need a reading. I said, sure, okay, come along. So I did the reading for her, and I kept on talking about this place where she worked, how toxic it was. She needed to get out there. It was really making her ill, which it was physically as well as emotionally. Then afterwards, she shared with me, and I just looked at her and I said, thank you for taking my job. It was the job I had applied for.
And she got it.
She was the one that got it.
Wow.
So at that point, I was very blessed for spirit to actually share that with me.
Yeah.
So I use it as an example that sometimes we just have to trust. And it doesn't come on a piece of paper which says, trust, insert here. We just have to believe that. And for me now, if something doesn't go the way as planned, yes, I get in my humanness a little upset, frustrated or whatever. But then I go, okay, bigger picture here. Something else is coming. And then that way it lets go of it. We don't have to get caught up into the grunge, the grind that happens when we are feeling frustrated. So, so for anybody that says they're not, they don't know how to connect, take all those times when you get that sign. You feel you need to phone somebody. You bump into that person. You go into the different coffee shop, or you go on this workshop, and it's like, but the workshop wasn't there for me. Like, it wasn't what I wanted. Then I always say to people, what did you learn? Who did you meet? What did you see? What did you hear?
Yeah.
That was the important part of it. It wasn't the workshop. That was just a tool to get you there in that place at that time. And as I shared with you earlier, the meeting of my husband, like spirit were trying to move heaven and earth for us to get together, and we kept missing each other. But then they pushed the plan into action, and everything on my schedule fell through. So I ended up at the workshop where I met my husband. And as I said to you, it wasn't bells and whistles right off the bat. There was a process there. I had to meet him at that time. And when we sat back and we've gone through it afterwards, of all the times that our paths crossed, but we didn't actually meet. So, and if anybody's watched the movie Sliding Doors with Gwyneth Paltrow, that is a good example. I always say to people, watch that movie and you'll understand exactly what I'm telling you.
Yeah, that's a good movie. I like that one. Let's talk about the groupies, the ones who might go online today and call you and you and you and you and you. Can you give me a reading? Can you give me a reading? Can you like a free reading from the radio people, or people who might do the cards 10 times a day, like because they're looking for an answer maybe that they're not getting, but you shouldn't do that, right? Like, no,
it's an addiction. It really is an addiction. That's what I said. Sometimes we get the answer, but we don't like it. So we have to accept that. Maybe when we're asking this question, is this the guy for me? Is this the guy I'm going to end up with, or whatever? Is this the house for me? And we're getting maybe you should wait. Maybe there's, all of those, what I call the questions coming up. You can shuffle the cards as many times as you like. What are you going to do? Like 3 hours later, I've done the reading 14 times. Do I want to, you have to, that is an addiction then. Yeah. And you do have to step away from the cards.
And I have to say, if you have to ask the cards, is this the right guy for you? Then you already know it's not the right guy for you.
Absolutely. There's questions coming up. And usually when we go and see somebody for a reading, or we're using cards or something like that, it is because we want that confirmation.
Yeah, yeah.
And of course, when we go back to the guy thing, we all know that that first blush, if you like, can be this is the guy for me. And then we start to see the little, cracks there. Then we go, but I want this to be the guy, and we've all been there.
I'm tired of looking. I don't want to look anymore.
There is no perfection. I have to say that in whatever you're looking for, whether it's a person, whether it's a job, or whatever, it's how much we also bring to the table as well. And maybe that'll shift, like the job that I had applied for, thought I'd got it, was upset that I didn't get it. Maybe in the bigger picture, I'm not supposed to. Maybe something else is going to come along. And I always say to people, when you're asking for something from spirit as well, ask, I will want this, XXXX, or something to my highest good, or something better.
And since your cards are vibrational energy cards, I have to say that, maybe you need to raise your vibrational energy to get the better match.
Absolutely.
Maybe you need to do a little bit of work. People don't like to hear that.
Step in the intention. Maybe you're around the negative vibes that are surrounding us, which they are. And, I was saying to somebody the other day, I switched off from mainstream media many, many years ago.
Yeah.
And now choose to listen to what I need. And people think, well, aren't you being a little bit, silly there? And I go, no, because if something major is going to happen, I'm going to find out about it.
I say the same thing. Yeah. I was the same way, because I found that, especially after 9/11, and like a program like CNN, which will replay those horrors over and over. They're just going into your subconscious, and all of that is going out into the world, and you don't want that in the world. We don't need that. We need to.
You
will
probably
find out.
you probably grew up like I did. Like I grew up in the UK. So at that time, there was a lot of unrest and terrorist attacks in London and wherever you went. And people said, but how did you survive that? The threat of nuclear fallout from Russia in those days, and all of those things. I said, but we didn't keep focusing on it. And I suppose there wasn't in the UK then as much media coverage. They would have the news at 6 o'clock and then 10 o'clock.
Exactly.
And that was it. It wasn't 24/7 being fed to us. We didn't have social media. We didn't have the internet and things like that. So we just got about and, you know.
And global news was really far away. Like you maybe didn't hear about it. Yeah.
But it was a case of, I can remember at the time when everything was going on and the possibility of a nuclear bomb of, you know, is my family going to be safe? What's going to happen? And those kind of things. Yeah. And then I realized that if I keep rerunning this scenario over and over again, I'm not actually living. I'm existing, and I don't want to exist. Exactly. All the things I'm missing out on, and especially with, you can be around young children, and young children don't care.
Yeah. Like, they don't know better to care.
Absolutely. And isn't that most amazing? Because they don't get caught up in the crap that we get caught up in.
Yeah.
And, you know, I can, you know, in all the work I do, when somebody that I love dies, it certainly hits me because I realize, okay, I'm not going to get to speak to them again. I'm not going to be able to have this experience. And I can remember many years ago with my very young granddaughter at the time, when a very dear friend of mine had died, and I had spent a few hours talking and conversing and crying, their human emotions. My granddaughter was coming over for a play date, and she saw that I'd been crying, and she said, but Bammy, why are you so sad? And I said, well, because a very dear friend of mine has just died. Oh, that is so great. Does she play cards? She can get with my great grandma and they can get together in heaven.
Oh, that's
and
so sweet.
Immediately I just looked at her and I thought, thank you, Spirit. This child has reminded me.
Yeah.
Because she's like, let's get on and play now. It's almost like, that's the conversation ended. Let's get on and play. And that was it, exactly it. But it's our humanness, our adultness and things like that. Sometimes we need to revert back to being a child.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Actually, my dearest friend, her mother passed away in England and she was being buried today. And we lit a candle for her, but it took forever for them to actually get her buried. And the weirdest, this is a really strange story. I'm going to tell you because it is kind of a strange story. Years and years ago when her dad died, they cremated him and they put him in the ground. And the mother had paid for a plot. And so she had fully expected to go into that plot. And they said, well, no, because there's human remains in that plot. You can't be buried in that plot. There's ashes in that plot. There's not human. So she was not allowed to be buried with her husband, which is kind of just a bizarre thing, isn't it? Weird?
Yeah.
So bizarre. So anyway, I said, you know, only you and only in England, I guess. But
yes.
But another nanny went off today, and we'll just say goodbye to Nanny Batson.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of sad. But anyway, onward, as they say. The vibrational energy cards that you have for children. Let's talk about those because those are pretty exceptional. Yes. Positive.
Of course, I'll try and get those out. Yeah, they were created for children from 8 years and upwards. And when I was actually working on the deck, although I had grandchildren at that time, it was a case of, I don't really know why you've asked me to create a children's deck because, you know, my son's grown up, I have grandchildren, but, you know, they're all too young. So what is the purpose for this? And I decided, because I didn't want to just walk into this abyss, this is the vibrational Earth Children deck, to bring on board people that worked with young children. So teachers, educators, parents with children around about the 6 to 9 year old group sort of focus. And when the information was being written about the cards, the big thing that I was seeing was that they were all in a positive way. So it was almost like us having the same kind of questions, and everyone has a affirmation for each child. So one of the things, one of the cards that I love, and you'll notice that the children on these cards are actually real children. They do exist, because that was something that when I was working with Kim Dreyer, who's the artist on this particular deck, she said, wouldn't it be nice to actually use, rather than stock photos and me create all that, that we use kids. So I put this call out on social media saying, would anybody, but before you send me a photograph, I'm going to send you permission slips and sign off and so forth. But people were sending me photographs all over the place. And,
wow.
you know, it was just so beautiful. And so working with, you know, like this one here, like these are real photographs that people have sent me.
Aww,
and they've been created in there. So the concept behind it is that when mom or whoever is using their deck, the child can actually use this deck for their card for the day, and the card is focused on something. So we have being visible, speaking up.
So like a conversation starter for a family.
Absolutely.
Let's say.
And the one I'm just looking for that people really love is Chores Wars. And Chores Wars is about doing chores.
Yeah.
And a lot of parents say, I look for that card, and that's the card we pull when things need to be done. So this is it here. And the definition in the book, they're written in such simple terms that a child can understand and equate to. And of course, I'll actually find that one and just read it out to you. Let me just see the Chores Wars. Doing chores around the house can be boring, but don't argue about it. You know it is something you need to do. Your help is important, so be creative with it. Think of a fun way to clean your bedroom or wash dishes. The only reason you're being asked to do a task or chore is because an adult knows they can depend on you because you are sensible and grown up. Vibrational earth children turn dull household chores into productive fun.
Very
so again,
positive.
It's putting a very positive slant onto something that, you know, like doing housework. It's not my number one, let's do housework. It's usually oh my gosh, I can't live like this anymore. I've got to do housework. So the whole idea of this was to make it easy for kids, and the colors are very vibrant. They're very posed to come up with ideas that the kids can look at. You know, like this one here, I love it, Cross My Heart.
Oh,
you know, it covers things like death, as far as, you know, my personal heaven and things like that, so that there's a little bit more of an understanding. But what happened since I created the cards is a lot of adults are using it for inner child work.
Okay, yeah.
And when somebody came to me and said, you know, I want your deck, and I said, oh, is it for a grandchild? She said, no, it's for me. I love to question. And she said, no, I'm doing some inner child work. I love the imagery. I love the simplicity. And it takes me right back to being a child. And so after that, I started to create this as part of workshops that I do, that we can explore that inner child experience. Yes, we can read the card verbatim and see how it resonates with us, or we can look at that card and see what's going on with us that we need to address within our lives.
Yeah.
And it's really beautiful. This is the one I was saying, My Personal Heaven. Very soft colors, very ethereal looking, so that
you can say what you believe. Like, what are your thoughts on things?
Exactly. So it can bring into a conversational piece the child. You know, this one here, I love this one, Love Me Lots. Now, when the parent of these two little souls sent me photographs, these two little boys are so entwined.
They're so sweet.
And I said, can you send some separate photographs? She said, no. She said, because if one gets in and the other doesn't, it will be catastrophic.
That's so funny.
We had this one, and I thought that just was the pure epitome of being loved.
Yeah, and everybody needs a hug.
Concept of people need the hugs, people need to know that they're loved and love others. So yeah, and this was something for me that it was an adventure, because with the deck I had created before, the adult deck, the vibrational energy deck, it was very simple to me because I could relate to that. But doing something for children, I wanted it to be created so that they have their own deck and that it's understandable. So within the book, it gives guidelines for adults using the deck with small children, and it also gives older children using the deck, some of the questions that they can ask and how they can use that deck. And I just wanted it to be all-inclusive, non-denominational, and just on everyday questions that come up with small children, and let them have their answers in the way that we have our more complicated lives as we get older. So,
well, there's a lot going on for children, especially with, social media. There's a lot of bullying. There's a lot of,
yes,
feeling lonely. There's a lot of, emotions that they don't necessarily understand. And I'm sure that these cards can kind of give them some answers about what they're feeling. I remember being young, and, and especially young girls, like, we look for, to Wicca and potions and beads and all kinds of things, right, to try to make our world right.
Yes, yeah.
And I'm sure that these cards kind of...
Well, I'm really pleased because child educators, like therapists that work with children, have bought this deck, and they use it as a talking point, so that the child can play with the cards and whatever cards they come out, whether it's based on color or words and things like that. So it starts a conversation.
Yeah.
And that was sort of, yes, that's perfect, because when educators and therapists use these working with children, it gives them an introduction, it gives them a starting point without it seeming so heavy. And especially if the child is already into cards. I know so many children, this is another reason it was created, that people said to me that bought my deck, what about the kids? My kids haven't got a deck that they can play with. So that was also the I suppose the reasoning behind it as well.
So when did you create your first deck?
It was around about 2012, and it came about due to, I was working in corporate world at that time, and I had a very severe accident where I was literally, a box dropped on the back of my head. Talk about being woken up there. And then on my recovery, I was in a couple of car accidents where I was rear-ended. So Spirit really had their full attention, and I kept on hearing, we want you to do something. And of course my cry was, what? So when they actually told me, you're going to create an oracle deck, of course my first response to that was, no, there are people out there that are far more educated and far more knowledgeable about oracle decks than I am. I haven't a clue. And I got told, you asked, we've told you, and then silence. So this part of this process for me, like anybody else, I question. Sure. And I get the sense that Spirit is sitting there going, now what? We've got to work with this person. Because
who chose her?
Yeah, exactly. I conclude, like a teacher in a class, that my spirit guides or helpers at that time are going, what did I do so wrong that I get this one?
Yeah.
Because
that's funny.
I'm, people always say to me, for a clairvoyant and medium, you're quite a skeptic. And I'm like, you're darn right. I'm not just going to believe, I want to know, and you've got to explain it to me. And I love the team that I work with, and I do work with a team. I'm very blessed, and they just seem to prod me, push me into the direction. And that's what actually happened with the Vibrational Energy Oracle deck. First of all, I got the titles of the cards, and there's a couple in there that you'll notice that are the kind that you go, where the heck did she get that from? One of them is the F word, and I'm just looking for that card at the moment to see if I can find it to show everyone. Oh, hang on. Of course, I know the color. So yeah, this is the F word. Oh, and of course, people with that one's like,
what?
Like, the F word? Is that what you're saying? The F word? And I go, well, actually, it can be, but it's actually reversing what we conclude is being frustrating, or the F word, and changing that whole perspective, moving that and shifting that whole energy so that we get what we need, a fabulous result, fantastic outlook, fortunable, whatever F words that you have there. And so when I got that one, and the other one that I got, which was really, I'm going, okay, this is becoming a cosmic joke, is Life's a Beach. My other card. And of course, I did emphasize a beach, or there is another word that we use, instead of that. And I got told, so at that point they were the ones near the end, and I thought, I'm going to stop writing now, because I'm wondering if Spirit are just playing with me. And I'm just looking for that card. Oh, here we are, Life's a Beach. And of course, this card in its way, when we think of life's the other word, we can be walking towards something or walking away from something. And, you know, I love the poem Footsteps or Footprints,
Yeah,
where, you know, that one where, you know, you weren't there with me. Well, there's always somebody there with us, whether it's a spiritual or human being, and we have choices.
Yeah.
So do we want to continue being in that same vein of thought, life's a beach, or do we want to actually go and have life as a beach and go and enjoy ourselves and embrace and move forward with what we want to do? So when I got those cards, I was questioning a little bit of,
and I can see that life is a beach. I mean, water is emotion.
absolutely.
And so, like, if life is a beach, and let's say life is a bitch, you know, you're in an emotional state, and how can you go to the beach and get rid of the bitch, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes we just need to.
Yeah.
I always say to people that sometimes, I remember back in the 1970s, when I was working in corporate world, and we got to communicate or in communication with a Japanese production company at that time, and they had a room that they created for their staff, the people that worked there, which was padded, and it was soundproofed. So when they got frustrated or angry or upset, they could just go into this room and literally, you know, I say, like, throw yourself on the floor like a 2-year-old and tantrum it out.
Have a tantrum, yeah.
So, and of course we don't have that now. We can go and do it in sports or punching a bag or something like that. But a lot of the time that gets suppressed in. So wouldn't it be beautiful if we had a room like this? We could just go and let it out, and then just release that frustration, that build up that's in there, because it is an emotion as well. Yeah. And, you know, I love that the fact that these cards are so simplistic. There's not loads and loads of reading to do. And that was something else I kept on thinking through. Well, hey, I've seen decks where there's pages and pages and pages of reading. I'm like, no, we want it to be simple.
Well, let's go back to that for a minute, because you have your 1, 2, 3 steps.
Yeah.
You've also got 52 decks in your card, which is a little unusual for a
52
deck.
52 cards, yes.
A lot of cards. Usually they're like 27. And then you have an 11 card reading.
Right, yes. Yes, a big one. Yes, a very big one.
So I don't know if we can go through, like, I did the reading this morning, which was an 11 card reading. Can we take my reading in your 1, 2, 3 and kind of figure out?
Yeah, we can try and do that without going into, because that, as I say, that is a really in-depth reading. I always say to people, start off with the, you know, the past, present, and future, or a 3-card question or something like that, and build up the resonance to doing this one, because it is a bit more in-depth. It covers the mind, body, and soul, and then it goes through the 5 vibrational dimensions of the soul. And we know when we get to the 5th dimension, that's pure consciousness. That's that. Yeah. I'm there. I'm trusting in this. I'm doing it. So, and then after that, it's looking at the past, present, and future. So it's a 3-card, then a 5-card, and then a 3-card. So it's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 cards in total. So that is a big spread.
So let's say we did the last one let's say the 3-card was my past, present, future.
Yes. Okay. All right. So did you want to go through the cards that you had?
Yeah,
okay.
Sure.
So you had knowing as your past, which I gather from I'm just trying to quickly pull the cards out. If you've got a moment to pull them out while I'm doing this.
Yeah, no worries.
I've got one here. Let's see. Of course, they're never jumping up. Knowing there, and then the other one here.
It's okay. I think everybody's
I know them by colours, which is really lovely.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm trying to find the muse. Okay.
And when you get a new deck of cards, you should handle each one.
Absolutely. I always say take them out, play with them, move them around.
I always go through the deck at least once and touch each one and put my energy into it. And do you ground yourself before you do a reading?
That's what I'm saying. Take the breath, close your eyes, step into your intention. You can do a prayer, light a candle, whatever's your thing. There's no... You have to do this, or you don't have to do this. The same with people say, should I cut the cards? How should I do it? I always say, whatever way you feel. Like, if you want to put them into piles, if you want to tap the cards like some people do, you know, I always say to people, when you're doing a reading for yourself, initially, you're holding the cards. So you've touched every single card in that deck by just holding them this way. And if you want to hold them with both hands, with the sides and that, So you're touching every card. But I always, after I've done a reading with somebody, is I take the cards, I touch each card, put my energy back onto them. Because a few people say, should I let other people touch my cards? Well, if it's just for you working with them, fine. But if you're a reader or somebody like that, I like the person to touch the cards and connect with them, because it's putting their resonance on them, and therefore the cards that are coming out are related to them, rather than me putting my resonance on. But again, it's each person to their own. There is no right or wrong way. Just do it with intention. So the first card you had on your past was knowing, and this all connects in at the end of this particularly large reading. And I do believe with this is this knowing, this knowledge that you actually have brought forward, and now you're using it in the present, but it's still there. It's not lost. It's still there. It's part of you. So it's like that knowing and being and allowing it to happen. So you've not got to question it. And I get the sense from this, and I'm just doing this from a readings perspective, for me adding more to it, that to get your knowledge, you had to work long and hard to get it. And therefore, when you've got it, you're not going to just give it away. Okay? Right. So the presence where you are at the moment, the muse, and of course, if we think of a muse in art or something like that, it's how we're drawn to something. Whoever is there, who's guiding us. There's this doorway here, this pathway leading up to the doorway. And although the door's closed, there's light underneath it, which means there's something there as you go through.
Somebody's home.
Absolutely. It's not, and maybe the doorway is leading you onto a different pathway.
Yeah.
So I get this with the present is somebody's going to be coming into your life, or someone is there that's guiding you in a different direction. Maybe it's new training, maybe new learning, maybe a new pathway that you're going to take yourself upon. And it's all in love. Look, the face is just so charismatic. I always call it, it's like the Mona Lisa kind of face. It just, it's there, and it's you just feel with it. And of course, what was your
the triangle?
The triangle. Okay, let me just. I hadn't got that one out. I don't know if I got the bottom one out here, so bear with me. Oh. So the triangle, as I'm looking for it, see, that to me is the trilogy. It's the Father, Son, Holy Ghost, the past, present, and future. All of the things that are combined together. Here it is here. And you have this cosmic view here. You've got the earth in a triangle again. You've got the three sides, and everything has different sides to it, different aspects to it. Just going into this cosmic, like, so it seems darker on the outside, but there's the light in the center drawing you into it, letting you be there. The possibilities, the infinite possibilities, and that's what I get the sense of future here. There's nothing that's actually been scribed out. This is what you're going to be doing. There's this. You have the possibilities to do anything you want to go towards. But I do get the sense it's spiritually related.
So why?
It's not just, you know, I'm going to get a different job or something like that. But if I was reading that as a different job, maybe I'm going to take a different pathway. Maybe I'm going to get more learning, or take the learning I've got and actually put it into practice. That might be the other side of the coin here that's going here, that you have the knowledge already here, and you just need to put it into practice. And maybe somebody's going to guide you to do that. Maybe it's a book, maybe it's creating workshops, maybe it's doing something new.
Yeah, thanks for that.
I
had that feeling myself. Yeah. Now here's a card. It might scare somebody. End of day.
See, I love end of days because it's a bit like getting the death card or the tower card in
so a renewal
in a tarot deck. It's renewal, but if you have, and I'm just trying to find my one here, the end of days card.
End of days to your bad marriage. End of days
it could be, see, for something to end, for something to begin, something has to end. We know that. It's not a case of we can just we have to clear the pathway. Now, if you look here at the very bottom here, it looks like a little soul that's sitting there in the Zen position. You've got your card, you'll see it a lot better. There's a butterfly up in here. So this is the transformation that's going to be happening. At the top, there's a crown. Think of our crown with our head. That's where our energy comes in and releases out. And when everybody looks at this, they see different things in it. There are so many. There's like a butterfly at the very, very top. They're very, very tiny at the top.
Yeah. It looks like a seance happening.
Yeah, it's almost like this person sitting there and connecting with everything.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that's what we need to do when something is coming to a close, an end, whether it's a relationship, whether it's a job. We have to sit there and we compile our notes. We go through, sometimes we go into analysis paralysis and start thinking about all the other things. But it is a time of contemplation. And I love this because it is like the beginning and the end all together.
So let me recap then. The steps are to be still.
Be still.
Part of the step, be still.
Get into the intention.
To the intention.
If you like to meditate or something like that, and some people say, well, I don't know how to meditate. Just close your eyes, listen to your breath, breathe it in, breathe it out.
Ask your question.
Connect to the deck. Shuffle the cards, thinking about what you want to have the answer to, and connect to that particular card is the third step. You know, I would say to people, if you're doing it and you're wanting some direction, with something simple, a 3-card, you know, is this what I need? What do I need to the steps? And so on. There's all different ways you can use it in conjunction with any other kind of spread. But I always say to people, use a 3-card spread to start with. Just pull 3 cards. And is this the right decision for me? Is this what I need to be doing? Is this the right job? Is this the right guy? Is this the right house? Whatever it is. Whatever your question is, and just pull those 3 cards and read them in conjunction with each other.
And then you also have this deck online, so you can do a digital reading if you like.
Yes, you can. Yes.
And also the children's. I think there's a digital
That's
reading.
correct.
And your website is
vibrational-energy.com.
There we go.
And you can order them on there. And I do have retailers around the world, more so in the United States, Canada, and Australia and New Zealand at the moment. I'm emerging into the UK. Don't worry, it is happening, but it's like everything else. But you can buy them off the website directly from me. And anybody that does actually buy them off my website, I do a personalized autograph card with that deck.
Nice.
So you get a little extra, I always say, for having to have the inconvenience of ordering it directly. But yes, these 2 decks are available as a mobile app.
Yep.
And there is a free limited edition where you can just download a few cards and play with the deck to see if you like it. But the actual app itself is really great. You can keep the journal of what your cards you pulled. You can post them. All of those great things that are there.
So Debbie has her cards. She has her readings. She teaches. She has workshops near her home. And did I forget anything else that you do?
I do a weekly reading on YouTube.
That's right. It's fabulous. I love that.
It's free. So if you need a little bit of inspiration, a little bit of raising your vibration up, tune in and listen to it.
I love that.
Subscribe to it. And I have Facebook where I post an affirmation card for the day from the 2 affirmation decks that I have created, these 2, based on the I Am principle, and they are posted on a daily basis on my Vibrational Energy 5 on Facebook. So you can join there and get all this great stuff.
Fantastic. Thank you, Debbie.
Thank you so much indeed, Frankie. I've had a really lovely time.
Me too.